Alright, a very good morning, everybody. Let me confirm if you're live or not yet. Just give me a moment. Yep, we are live. Cool. So today's session is a continuation in the FIJ series that we've been on for a while. Yes, we've been doing this for a couple of days now. So today's session is another uh, practice session in the same series. And as always, allow me to quickly introduce myself and the Unacademy portal before we delve into the discussion for the day. I am Prankur Arora. I'm going to be your instructor on this lesson. Very good morning, Shruti. Welcome to the class. I'm an author, a trainer, a coach, and I run the startup by the name of Thought Sutra. Now, this class is being conducted on the CAT4MBA YouTube channel. At the same time, you can avail lessons like these on wherein we offer you daily live classes. The courses on the platform are structured and we regularly conduct tests and quizzes. And with one subscription, you get unlimited access to anything and everything. All kinds of live and recorded courses that you can access from the comfort of any of your devices. We offer the following subscription modules. All right, Shruti, thank you for informing me. These are the various subscription models that we offer. You can clearly see as the time period goes up, the cost of the subscription per month goes down dramatically. And if you use my name Prankur, you'll get an extra 10% off on any of the subscriptions that you go for. Said that, let's revise the FIJ rules. So when it comes to facts, we know for a fact that we are talking about statements that offer evidence, right? Factual statements will offer you some kind of evidence. They can be verified, they can be universal truths. They essentially, these are facts that can be discovered, right? If you're talking, and sometimes when you're quoting somebody, you're basically uh, noting for a fact that the statement or the assertion is by somebody who's heard something, seen something, or read something. So again, when it comes to these things, you can verify all of this, right? Anyone else's opinion stated by the author is what I'm trying to get at. That the author is writing about somebody else's opinion. So there it is not the author's opinion himself or herself. Those opinions are judgments. But when the author is stating somebody else's opinion, it becomes a fact. And any assertion that carries any kind of figures, statistics, or data, right, without an opinion attached to it, it becomes a fact, right? That is something that we know for a fact. Now, let's revise inferences. Again, inferences are conclusions that are drawn about the unknown on the basis of the known, right? So, what is the unknown? What is the known? Unknown statement is something which can be logically proven by the given fact or the known statement, and the known statement in itself, as Shruti has pointed out, is a fact. Inferences contain a fact. The first thing an inference should consider or consist of is a fact, and the fact is used to prove something else. Hi Alicia, very good morning. And finally, let's boil down to judgments. What are judgments? Judgments are statements that could, lead to an approval or a disapproval. They are essentially opinions of the author, personal opinions of the author. You can challenge these personal opinions because the author does not give you a because statement. The author does not tell you why the author is saying so, right? And basically, it changes according to the perspective of the individual that we're talking about. All right, now let's start with the first question of the day, right? The first question of the day. What do you guys make of these four statements? Alicia says 1 and Shruti says 4 or 5. Okay. Now, the basic dichotomy between the two of you is whether the first two statements are judgments or they are inferences. So, let's look at them. The first statement says those people are mistaken, as is obvious from the fact that in each of the past 6 years, our state has spent more money per mile on road improvements, Asim says 2, okay, than any other state. So understand, Shruti, it cannot be a judgment because you're making use of a known fact to conclude whether people are mistaken or not. So you're concluding about the unknown, whether people are mistaken or not, by using a known fact, which is the state spending. So the first statement there becomes an inference. All right. Second one, several of the particle accelerators at major research institutions were out of service the year before last of repairs, so it is likely that low number of articles was due to the decline in availability of particle accelerators. So again, you're concluding about an unknown incident, an unknown reason, which is the reason for the decline of in the number of articles, because you know for a fact that particle accelerators were shut down for repairs. So this as well becomes your inference, right? You're concluding about an unknown based on the known. Yep. And the third statement is when you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. Asim, why would you call this a fact? This is an opinion of the author, right? This is not something that is verifiable, right? It is a very subjective thing. It is a very subjective attitudinal thing that when you eliminate the impossible, whatever remains must be the truth. But what context are we talking about? Right? So therefore I agree with Alicia that this is a judgment, this is a personal opinion of the author. And finally, the last statement, uh, each rancher would be tempted to overuse common land because the benefits would accrue to the individual, while the cost of reduced land quality that results from overuse would be spread among all users. Right? So here we are, yeah. So here again, this becomes an inference because we are concluding about what each rancher would be doing when cost of the reduced land goes down. Alicia, rancher. So who is a rancher? Rancher is basically somebody who works on a land, right? In layman terms, a rancher is somebody who works on a land, who owns land or who runs a ranch, basically. See, means they raise livestock, they raise cattle, they raise sheep, they basically it is a part of the livestock industry where you own land and you're working with livestock on that land. Okay. So here again, the last statement becomes an inference because you're talking about what a rancher would be tempted to do in XYZ variables, right? So this also becomes an inference. So the answer is option number 1. Let's move on to the next question. All right. Asim, Shruti, what do you make of this? Shruti also says fifth option, okay. All right. So let's look at all the statements. Yes, a compelling optical illusion called the illusion of velocity and size makes objects appear to be moving more slow the larger the objects are. This is this a judgment or you're talking about something scientific? You're defining optical illusion here, right? You're defining optical illusion here. So it is something that is discovered, something that is verifiable, and therefore I'll call this a fact and not a judgment, Asim. Biological functions of many plants and animals vary in cycles that are repeated every 24 hours. Again, this is a verifiable fact. When people move from one time zone to another, their daily biological rhythms adjust in a matter of days to the periods of sunlight and darkness in the new zone. Again, this is something that is verifiable, right? This is not the author's personal opinion, but this is something that is verifiable. So, therefore, I'll call this a fact as well. And finally, the fourth statement, although migraine headaches are believed to be caused by this is how you can, if you eliminate those foods, the patients they experience a declining frequency of the headaches or the migraine reactions, and therefore again this becomes something that is verifiable, right? It is a claim pertaining to health and it is verifiable. So all four statements were facts in this regard. Next question. Okay, let me, I suppose the visibility is down here. Let me see what I can do. Wow, this was quick, Shruti. Okay, all three of you say option two. Okay, so the first statement, the net savings in medical resources achieved by some preventive health measures are smaller than the net losses attributable to certain other measures of this kind. I agree, this is something that can be verified, so you can call this a fact. Okay. The next one, recently a court ruled that current law allows companies to reject a job applicant if working on the job would entail a 90% chance that the applicant would suffer a heart attack. Again, this is something that is a verifiable claim. We'll call this a fact. Because the satellites can be repaired only in orbit, astronauts are needed to repair them. It is an inference, a clear inference. And finally, the fourth statement, in an attempt to promote the widespread use of paper rather than plastic, thus reduce non biodegradable waste. The council plans to ban the sale of disposable plastic goods for which substitutes made of paper exist. Again, this is basically uh, hmm. See, it is here we are talking about a plan, right? Here we are talking about a plan. So ideally, this should be FFIF and not FFII. And I would call this last statement a fact as well, because this is a plan that another town council has made, right? We are talking about a plan that a town council has made. So I would not really call this an inference. I would rather call this a fact, right? So there seems to be an issue with the options in that regard. I would call this a fact, right, and not an inference at all, because we are talking about a plan that another town council has made, right? So it is something that can be verified. It is something that is evident, right? So therefore, I would call this a fact, and I would cross check this question and report to you guys in the next class as to whether this was supposed to be F as well or not. All right. Hope this makes sense. I'll move on to the next question now. Okay. Asim says two. Okay. All right, let's look at all the statements. According to a review of 61 studies of patients suffering from severely debilitating depression, a large majority missing a night's sleep immediately lifted their depression. This is a verifiable claim. You're quoting a study, so this becomes a fact. The increase in taxes or government debt that is needed to finance the project will severely reduce the vitality of the civilian economy. See, are you concluding about the unknown using something that is known to you? I don't really think so. We are talking about what increase in government debt will do to the economy. So again, this is not really an inference at all. This is basically an assumptive statement that when you're increasing this, uh, this is what will happen. So there is an assumption in that regard. This is not really something that you're banking upon on a fact or a viable claim for that matter. What you're doing is you're talking about what an increase in government debt will do to the economy. So this seems like the author's personal opinion, and therefore I will call this a judgment and not an inference at all. Because understand that when it comes to an inference, you're concluding about the unknown using something known, and that known thing is a fact, right? The known thing is supposed to be a fact. So one clause of the statement has to be a fact, and second clause of the statement has to be a conclusion, right? Third statement contains neither, so I would rather call this a judgment. Okay. The second statement, development of cost effective techniques is of highest priority for civilian business. One would be neglected if resources go to, again, this is the author's personal opinion, so I would call this a judgment as well. Right? And finally, the first statement, the more frequently employees take time to exercise during working hours, the fewer sick days they take. I would not really call this a fact because understand, Asim, that there is no evidence to back up this claim. Right? What is the credibility of this statement? Are we quoting a scientific journal? Are we quoting a survey? Not really, right? So this is again an assumptive statement made by the author, and I would call this a judgment as well, and therefore the answer to this question would be 5, that the first three statements are judgments, the last one is a fact. Okay. Next question. Third one, all right. Azim says the fifth one, all right. So, yes, the first statement is an inference that this is what we can or can't do. So, we are concluding about what we can or can't do once we are on the liberalization route. So, this is an inference. The next statement, obviously, is the author's personal opinion. It's a judgment. Under these circumstances, being an active supporter of WTO will be a good idea. Right? Will be a good idea is the author's personal opinion. Uh, the WTO is a truly global organization aiming at freer trade. Yes, this is a fact. And finally, the last one, where the two of you differ, which is many member countries have already drafted plans to simplify tariff structures. Why are you calling this an inference, Hasil? This is a verifiable claim. We are talking about what member countries have already planned to do. So you can verify whether they've planned to do it or not, right? Whether they've already drafted plans or not. So how are you concluding about something that is unknown using a known clause? That is not really something that is happening here. So therefore I would call this a fact as well, that we can prove whether these countries have drafted plans or they've not drafted plans. So I agree with Shruti that the answer would be option 3, IJFF. Yeah, let's move on to the next question. Alright, so both of you claim that the answer is 4. Okay, just give me a moment. Hmm. The minister definitely took the wrong step is obviously I would not really call this an inference, I would call this a judgment, right? This is an opinion that the minister took the wrong step or the minister did not take the wrong step. Why are we calling this an inference, guys? The minister definitely took the wrong step. This is perhaps the personal opinion of the author, right? It was uh, I mean, are we concluding about the minister through something that is known to us? I don't really think so. The statement does not really. All inference statements have two components: an unknown component that you're concluding about, and a known component that you're backing up the conclusion with. Right? So there is no known component here. You're just giving your opinion that the minister took the wrong step. Right? So this is a judgment in that regard. Right? This is J. Under the circumstances, he had many alternatives. He had many other alternatives. I would call this a fact, right? The both of you also went with F for second statement. So this is a fact. We can prove whether he had many alternatives or not. The third one, the prime minister is embarrassed due to the minister's decision. Um, Again, I would call this. See, this is a verifiable fact whether the prime minister was embarrassed or not. I would not really call this an inference. ड्यूट आप सोच रहे होगे कि ये अननोन कंपोनेंट है और ये नोन कंपोनेंट है एंड यूर कंक्लूडिंग अबाउट वेदर प्राइम मिनिस्टर इज एम्बेरस्ड और नॉट बट यूर basically talking about a third party person, right, where you're not really making use of another component. You're just saying whether the prime minister was embarrassed or the prime minister was not embarrassed. So more than an inference where you're trying to conclude about something, I would say this is a fact. And finally, the last one is what I would call an inference, that if he has put the government in jeopardy. Now, this is the known component, right? If he's put the government in jeopardy, the minister must resign. This is basically the unknown component where you're concluding whether the minister must resign basis whether the government was put in jeopardy or not. This is something that I would call an inference. You're concluding whether the minister must resign or not basis whether the government was put in jeopardy or not. Right? So the answer would be 1 in that regard. JFFI. Hi Narkide, welcome to the class. Next question. Shruti, Asim, I hope the previous question was clear. Good. I think so. I think so. FIJ is a common component for all management exams, वैसे, not just CAT, but I think everybody here is preparing for CAT. Shruti says 1, alright. Also, Shruti and Asim, tomorrow I'm planning a marathon class at 3:30 p.m. Would that be a suitable time for you guys? Tomorrow I will not be able to take a class in the morning. I have to go somewhere. So tomorrow 3:30, will you guys be available? Right, Asim says to okay. The ideal solution will be to advertise aggressively. Why are we calling this a fact, Asim? This is perhaps the personal opinion of the author. You're giving the ideal solution, but you're not really backing it up with any statistics, any data, any evidence, right? So I would not really call this a fact. I would call this a judgment of the author. This is an opinion of the author that this, according to the author, this is what the ideal solution is कि अपने को aggressively advertise करना चाहिए. Sir, 4:30. Asim, will 4:30 be a good time for you? ठीक है. Tomorrow I'll schedule it for 4:30 then. The ideal solution will be to advertise aggressively, yes. So this becomes your judgment and not a fact. When you look at the second one brand is already popular amongst the youth. This is a verifiable claim. Asim, this is a verifiable claim whether the brand is popular or the brand is unpopular. So this I would call a fact. Reducing prices uh, will mean trouble as our revenues are already dwindling. The both of you now I again agree with Shruti here that this is an inference, right? You're talking about what reducing prices will mean, right? When revenues are already dwindling. So, revenues are already dwindling is a known fact, right? And reducing prices will mean trouble is a conclusion that you're making about the unknown. So, this becomes your inference. The last statement again becomes a judgment that the correct solution will be to consolidate by aggressive marketing. Again, this is the personal opinion of the author, just like the first statement. So the answer is JFIJ. Good job, Shruti. Let's move on to the next question. Tomorrow 4:30 लॉक कर देता हूँ मैं फिर. Alright, Shruti, let's wait for Asim's answer and then we'll discuss it. So, understand, see, when we say the people must develop a sense of consumerism, right? Must develop means that we are talking about the personal opinion of the author. So, in that regard, this becomes a judgment. Alright, when we say that people must develop something, we are talking about the personal opinion, and therefore, there it becomes a judgment, right? And when you look at statement number two, it is obviously a verifiable fact whether consumerism has helped improve the quality of goods or not. This is a verifiable fact, right? When you look at the third statement, the protected environment is helping the local farmers. Again, the idea here is that it states the opinion of the author, right? It states the opinion of the author because you're not really backing this up with any claim, any evidence, right? Whether it is helping or not is opinion of the author. And finally, the quality of good suffers if the manufacturers take undue advantage of this. Understand that this the inference of you know suffering of the quality of goods is basically taken out from the idea of whether manufacturers are taking undue advantage or not, right? So when we say manufacturer are taking undue advantage, this is the known fact. The quality of goods suffering is the unknown fact. You're concluding about whether the quality of good suffers or not by making use of the premise where we know that manufacturers are taking undue advantage, right? So therefore, in that regard, the answer is B, right? And not option 4, it is option 2. I hope this made sense, Shruti. Next question. Okay. Here the idea is the prices of electronic goods are falling. This is a verifiable claim whether you can check whether the prices are falling or not. So we'll call this a fact, right? Since we have substantial reductions in import duties, this is obvious. So you're concluding whether it is obvious or not based on the idea of whether you have substantial reductions in import duties or not. Therefore, there this becomes an inference. You're making use of a known fact to conclude about something that is not very obvious, right? The trend is bound to continue in the near future. It is bound to continue. Bound to, as a verb, tells us that you're talking about the opinion of the author. It is a judgment in that regard. Fij is only given to us in option 3. So, therefore, the last statement, the turnover is still rising. It is verifiable whether it is rising or not. So, therefore, it also becomes a fact. And the answer is option 3. The answer is option 3. Yeah, FIJF. All right. Now, with this, what I'll do is I'll tell you about. We'll cover these questions tomorrow because I have to push now. But allow me to tell you about the batches that we're running these days. Right. I would urge you to look up these educators. Take special classes from them. See whether you'd want to enroll in their courses and batches or not. Right, you are getting a 10% discount on Unacademy Plus subscription. You can use my name Prankur, right? That you can use this as your referral code to avail the 10% discount. And we are conducting weekly scholarship tests on the Unacademy platform. The next combat is on the 21st of February at 12 p.m. You can register for it for free, right? You can unlock it using again my name Prankur, Prankur. You can unlock the exam using my name. I would urge you to participate in these scholarship tests because they'll help you develop a lot of perspective about your learning journey. They'll help you understand where you are versus where you want to be in your learning journey. Because you will get a lot of analysis in your performance, right? Uh, you will be able to identify and improve your weak areas, right? Because uh, the idea is we'll give you data such as the time you're spending on every question, what are your topic wise scores, relative statistics, right? Because there will be an all India leaderboard, so you'd be able to see where you stand, right? Plus we'll give you video solutions to the questions as well that you come across in this Unacademy combat exam, right? So do partake 12 p.m. on Sunday. uh, with this, I wrap up the class now. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you guys tomorrow.